The 70th week spoken of by Daniel the prophet is fast approaching after the covenant with many is made by the prince that shall come. Saudi Arabia played role in Israel-Morocco normalization. Saudi Arabia played an important role in the normalization agreement between Israel and Morocco brokered by the US, Israel's Channel 12 News reported. The report did not provide details of the Saudi role in the agreement, but Middle East analysts say that due to Saudi Arabia's strong influence among Sunni states, none of the recent peace deals with Israel would have proceeded without the consent of Saudi Arabia. The report added that a Saudi newspaper affiliated with the Saudi royal family reported on the Israel-Morocco agreement on its front page. Israeli diplomatic sources told Channel 12 that it is likely that Saudi Arabia itself will soon normalize relations with Israel, confirming the words of White House advisor Jared Kushner, who said last week that an Israeli-Saudi agreement is inevitable and the only question is when. Israeli media outlets reported on Sunday that Oman is the next most likely country to normalize relations with Israel, and talks are underway with a number of additional countries in Africa and Asia as well. In other news, no room for non-Muslims on Temple Mount, says PA Mufti. There is no place for non-Muslims in any way in this mosque, whether through schools, churches or other places of worship. The Palestinian Authority Mufti of Jerusalem, Sheikh Mohammed Hussein, on Tuesday warned of attempts by Jewish groups to establish a presence on the Temple Mount. Hussein told the Palestinian news agency Qatar that the entire holy site is Islamic and belongs only to Muslims. We affirm, time and again, that the Blessed Al-Aqsa Mosque, with its entire area of 144 dunams, 144,000 square meters, is Islamic and only for Muslims, he said. There is no place for non-Muslims in any way in this mosque, whether through schools, churches or other places of worship. Jordan, meanwhile, has again condemned visits by Jews to the Temple Mount as a reckless provocation and a violation of international law and the legal and historical status quo. In a statement, the Jordanian Foreign Ministry said that it denounces the continued Israeli violations at Al-Aqsa Mosque, Al-Haram al-Sharif. Referring to visits by Jews to the compound, the ministry said, under the protection of the Israeli forces, extremists recently stormed the holy site. These rejected and reckless provocations are a violation of international law and the legal and historical status quo, which breach Israel's obligations as the occupying power in East Jerusalem. The Jordanian-controlled Waqf Islamic Religious Trust in Jerusalem is exclusively authorized to supervise the holy site's affairs and manage its entries, the statement added. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell so you can get notified whenever new Bible prophecy news videos are uploaded. Scripture to consider. I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, and parted my land. The land of Israel will be parted with Palestine. Now back to the news. Benny Gantz says, there's room for Palestinian capital in Jerusalem. Defense Minister Blue and White Chairman Benny Gantz gave an interview to Saudi newspaper Al-Sharq Al-Awsat, which is distributed in the Arab world, and presented his doctrine for resolving the PA-Israel conflict. Gantz said that in his view, Jerusalem will remain united, but there is also room for a Palestinian capital. He called on Abbas to join the recent peace process between Israel and Arab countries and not to be left behind. Gantz emphasized that Israel would not return to the 1967 borders, but that there could be an exchange of territories with the Palestinians. I live in Rosh Ha'ayin on the border with the West Bank. I have friends in Taiba and Araba and I visit them and they visit me, and I want it to happen with Nablus and Hebron and Ramallah, Gantz said in an interview translated by Khan journalist Nurit Yohanan. As for Jerusalem, the defense minister said, Jerusalem should remain united, but there is room for a Palestinian capital. In related news, Qatar reiterates stance in supporting Palestinian people. Qatar has reiterated its stance in supporting the Palestinian people and their just cause, just days after Morocco became the latest country to announce a normalization of ties with Israel. In a meeting with Palestinian Authority (PA) President Mahmoud Abbas in Doha on Monday, Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani confirmed Qatar's stance on supporting peace on the basis of the Arab Peace Initiative, the two-state solution and legitimate international resolutions. Abbas's visit came at a time when a number of Arab countries have normalized relations with Israel, including Gulf states, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. Last week, Israel and Morocco agreed to normalize relations in a deal brokered with the help of the United States, making Morocco the fourth Arab country to set aside hostilities with Israel in the past 4 months. Moroccan King Mohammed told PA leader Abbas that Rabat stands by a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. As part of the agreement, U.S. President Donald Trump agreed to recognize Morocco's sovereignty over the Western Sahara, where there has been a decades-old territorial dispute with Morocco pitted against the Algeria-backed Polisario Front, a breakaway movement that seeks to establish an independent state in the territory. Palestinians have been critical of the normalization deals, saying Arab countries have set back the cause of peace by abandoning a long-standing demand that Israel gives up land for a Palestinian state before it can receive recognition. Qatari Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani earlier said the Arab countries that have normalized ties with Israel have undermined efforts to establish a Palestinian state. He stressed the need to form a united Arab front in order to put the interests of the Palestinians first and to end the Israeli occupation. Lastly, U.S. Special Advisor to Middle East, Brian Hook, no more peace deals if Biden appeases Iran. In an interview with I-24 News, Jesuit-educated Brian Hook, U.S. Special Advisor on Middle East issues and former Iran envoy, says the Trump administration succeeded in brokering historic peace agreements between Israel and Gulf states Bahrain and the UAE by countering the common threat that is the Islamic Republic of Iran. Hook calls on Biden to continue this policy of deterrence, noting that it's very important to stand with your friends, who have no daylight between them and the existential threat facing them. Hook also praises the current administration for placing maximum economic pressure on Iran and restoring the military option as a deterrent, and says Biden will have a lot working for him once he takes office. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And stay tuned to Watchman Report for more Bible prophecy news.